today. Thank you for hearing us. Whatever we have failed up asking you for, but this time fail not to grant it unto us for Christ's sake. Amen. We are here. The time has come. This was announced some months ago, where we will have this seminar or session on diabetes. Well, the time has come for us to really have this session. And we have our presenters, Mr. Tony Kelly, or Anthony Kelly, is our presenter. Now, he will be presenting from the patient standpoint. And Dr. Hamill is here, and he's a medical doctor. So he will also give us any information that we need to have on the medical side. Quite qualified to do so. Okay, I'm so sorry, sir. Right. So we have Mr. Kelly, the presenter, and we have Dr. Amil, who will also give the medical aspect of the presentation. So without any further ado, I will now have the introduction of the presenter. He was born in Jamaica. No. Born in England. Oh, sorry. Probably that's what he should be. Okay. He was born in England, grown up in St. Thomas, was sent back here for his education. Sent back here, and he actually started out at the Michael University College as a teacher. And then at some point in time, he went back to England to do further studies. And so he's a man who is very passionate about the Jamaican population and this particular malady that is really attending us. He's married with one adult daughter, Abigail Kelly. And she's now married. Is an adult daughter who is now married. And I must say that she's an operatic singer, very well established. The speaker will probably tell you a little more about her, as she actually performs all over England. He has been diagnosed with diabetes for 18 years, and he has not taken any medication so far. So we need to hear from that side also, and we need to hear from Dr. Amil's side also. So he has traveled the world all over, telling the story of what all about diabetes. So we are very, very happy to have with us this afternoon Mr. Anthony Kelly. I should have also told you that he taught at Pembroke Hall when I was there, when I actually came here and saw me. So he came behind me from Michael, and then he also came behind me from Pembroke Hall. But indeed, he has a passion for Jamaica. He's a Jamaican. So we are happy to have him with us this afternoon. Can we just give him a round of applause? Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks for that wonderful introduction, Reverend.
There is blood sugar testing that is being done as I speak. So if you want to really do your blood sugar testing, you can do that even now. Dr. Hamill, as well as Nurse Penny Gordon, and I think two other nurses are here. Another nurse is here to really give us that service. So that will be going on either during or after the presentation. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if there are any in the audience. Thanks, Reverend Gordon, for that introduction. As was said, my name is Tony Kelly, and I'm going to be taking you, and I know there are people online So I'm going to take you on a journey about my diabetes and how I manage and control it, and have done so for 18 years without medication whatsoever. Reverend Gordon got it wrong in the first place that I'm born in Jamaica. Me sound very Jamaican, you know, so probably that's why I get it mixed up. I was actually born in London, and more of that will come out later. But I am here since the 18th of October. First part of the holiday is to see family and friends. I live in Birmingham, England, and Diabetes Awareness Month across the world is the month of November. That's Diabetes Awareness Month. And during lockdown in particular, I have been doing this for 10.5 years now. I did a lot for Michael and a lot for other places, and they said, you need to come over to Macedonia and help us. And you as Christians will know what that means. I have the gift of the gab. We can chat, okay? And I'm going to go into the Jamaican lingo quite a lot. So I'm making it real because I'm amongst my Jamaican family and friends. So it's a diabetes awareness presentation. I work as a volunteer for the National Health Service, Birmingham and Solihull Integrated Care System. That's the new name it has been given. And I thank Reverend Gordon for deciding to host me here. From the 1st to the 12th of November, I'm going to 7 parishes. Can't do all the parishes, so I'm not doing the western side of the island. But from the 1st through to the 12th, I'm doing 7 parishes on this journey to make Jamaicans more aware of this condition, diabetes. And by the time I'm finished, you are, if you're in a category where you're at risk or you have the medical condition itself, you will make hopefully the lifestyle changes I would like to see you make. So my motto is, our health is our wealth. That's my motto. That's my strapline. That's what I use all the time, okay? So I'm really a diabetes strategic patient partner, but it's a long title. So basically I say I'm a diabetes ambassador or diabetes advocate. You all know the various arrangements here in terms of exits and so on, so I don't bother to go through those. But the one I do touch on very briefly is the mobile phone. Please switch off your mobile phone or put it on silencer. And also, you might need to have it on because you're going to see images come on the screen that you will want to take with your camera on your mobile phone. Important information. So if you have it on, do have it on silencer. Moving swiftly on, I start with my health disclaimer. It's called a health disclaimer for a reason. I am not a doctor. I'm not a diabetic nurse. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a dietitian. I am not a healthcare professional. I'm going to share with you my lived experience, my reality, my patient experience with this medical condition, which I've had Christmas coming 19 years. So please, Dr. Hamill is around somewhere. He will answer your questions if it relates to anything to do with the medical profession or on the medical terms. I just talk about my real life lived experience with this condition for 19 years without medication. That picture is of me back in London where I was born, a cheeky little boy. Some people say the features have still remained the same. And you notice I'm in a cardigan or sweater because London, England cold, you know. England I like here. And that was taken by my mother before she sent me off to Whitehall, St. Thomas, Jamaica. And I grew up in Whitehall, St. Thomas with my grand aunt and my grand uncle and my grandmother back in the 60s. Okay, me playing jigsaw. So 10 years ago, 10.5 years ago, Wolverhampton, which is 9 miles from Birmingham where we live, they wanted somebody to come and give a little talk for a few moments about diabetes. And somebody said, at that time, I never did public engagements on diabetes. Somebody said, we know a man named Tony Kelly in Birmingham. He's a black man, and he can come and share with you his experiences. So I went to Wolverhampton in the presence of the Lord Mayor and other dignitaries, and I spoke for about 10 minutes. And that's when Diabetes UK, which is a well-known charity back in Britain, they saw me at the event and said, you need to come and help us. The whole issue of come over to Macedonia and help us. So I was trained by Diabetes UK as a community champion volunteer and have not looked back since. I go all over the world to give these talks to people about health and well-being, healthy living, okay? And how to manage and control your diabetes. I'll tell you straight away, the NHS, which was formed 73 years ago, for the anniversary of the NHS 3 years ago, they had a big television program on BBC Two. And they said, who can we invite to come and be interviewed? And everybody said, oh, there's a man in Birmingham called Tony Kelly, invite him. And I went on this BBC television program, 7-8 million viewers watching. The first question that the interviewer asked me, she said, so Mr. Kelly, you are a diabetes sufferer. And I just looked at her straight in the eyes and said, excuse me, I am not a diabetes sufferer. I am living with this medical condition. I am managing and controlling it. Please don't call me a diabetes sufferer. And by the time I get home, my wife said, the phone never stopped ringing. Everybody ring. What a good answer. There are people who suffer with diabetes. And I'm going to tell you, back in Whitehall, St. Thomas, I'll start at the top. Relatives of mine, me, an 8, 9, 10-year-old child growing up in the district, some of my relatives had strokes. Some of my relatives went blind. Some of my relatives had heart attacks. Some of my relatives had to leave the country area, come into Kingston to go onto the dialysis machine because of kidney or renal failure. Last but not least, some of my relatives had lower limb amputations, what would I call chopping off of toes and feet. I would ask my relatives, what is the matter with them? Very nosy, very inquisitive little boy. And all my relatives would tell me is they have a touch of sugar. That's all they would. The word diabetes was never used in the 60s when I was growing up. Granny have a touch of sugar. Uncle so-and-so have a touch of sugar. Aunt so-and-so have a touch of sugar. So they minimized, that's the word, minimized or trivialized or downplayed this very, very serious medical condition by referring to it as a touch of sugar. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I want you to understand, if you didn't before, and I know I'm preaching to the converted because some of you do know, diabetes is more than a touch of sugar. And I'm going to engage you. Are you with me? Yes or no? Right. Okay. So we're getting there. So I'm living with it all this time and never take medication. And doctors marvel and said, that's not possible. Yes, it is possible. Okay. I proud myself on this picture and I put it up there. When I was growing up in Whitehall, St. Thomas, you hear me talk about Whitehall, St. Thomas a lot. I never learned to cook. I grew up in a middle-class family with my grandaunt being a teacher in Whitehall Primary School. Her husband, my granduncle, had lots of land, so he was into plantation, a farmer. Every time I made a beeline for the kitchen as a little boy, the response was, only girl picnic must be in the kitchen. I can remember it to this day. Go take your book. That is exactly what my grandmother and my grandaunt and my granduncle would say. Go take your book. I'm glad I took my book because I'm very educated and eloquent and articulate now. Had I not taken my book, I probably would have turned out to be something else. So the girls were allowed in the kitchen to cook, and the boys, we had to go take our book. And I did an event at Abernathy Gallimore School, and in Christiana or Alexandra. Well, I did an event for them since being here. They're privileged because they're the only high school I've been to. Most of the other places are churches, Good Warriors, mosque, community centers. And I asked, do the boys in this school cook? Do they do home economics? And I was told yes. And I clapped. I said, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Boys need to learn to cook. And I'm going to come back to it in a bit. Don't just think, oh, it's on the ladies. Girls must cook, and boys must do other things. So in 2009, that's the year, my daughter said, this can't continue like this anymore. I said, what do you mean? She said, you come home early from your job. Your wife, that's her mother, comes home, and she comes home, and me lording there, sitting down in my settee or what have you, and can't even boil egg. Okay? That's as bad as it was. She said, I'm going to give you a course of Christmas, Caribbean cookery classes, 15 classes for you to go and learn to cook, 2009. Ask yourself the question and answer it. Who is the best cook in the Kelly household now? Exactly, me, because I've learned to cook, and then there's this latent talent. So I cook at home, take turns with my wife and my daughter and my son-in-law. Luckily, my son-in-law is an actual cordon bleu chef. So that just adds to the whole issue as well. So I've learned to cook, and I'm proud of the fact that I can now cook. I speak, even before I start the diabetes stuff, I speak about the National Health Service. There might be some of you in this room who at one stage lived in England. The National Health Service was formed after the Second World War. 1939 to 1945 was the Second World War. Then 1948, the British government sent people to the Caribbean, to Asia, and to Africa and said, your country needs you. So some came as conductors, factory workers, bus drivers. Some came to train as nurses. In the middle, from Bath, St. Thomas, Jamaica, Aldith Richards, my aunt, came to England to train as a nurse in London in 1952. There are people in this room who were not even born then, okay? My mother on the left, the only Black person in that picture with a lot of white people, white nurses, she came the following year in 1953 to train as a nurse in England. And I'm not talking state enrolled nurse, I'm talking state registered nurse, SRN. It didn't end there. In 1956, their sister, my other aunt, came also to train as a nurse in England. So I called them, I don't know if you know about pop music, but there was a band, a group of Black ladies called the 3 Degrees. When will I see you again and all those things? Well, I call them the 3 Degrees. 3 sisters came from Bath, St. Thomas, Jamaica, 52, 53, and 56 to train as nurses in England. And some people said to me back in England, because I've been doing this event for 10.5 years now, why do I have to big up my family? It is about changing the narrative. Black people help to rebuild Britain. And why should I make, every year they have the National Health Service events, and you just see a sea of white people in the papers and in the magazines and so on, the Nursing Times, the This Times. Black people help to build up Britain. And it is important that we basically big them up. And this is my contribution to what my family have done. And it's passed on to me. Yes, I'm not a nurse, a doctor, or a nutritionist, but I have something to give. The Lord has given me this talent, and I'm prepared to share it with people. Are you with me? You will hear a lot the words hard to reach communities. If you Google hard to reach communities in Britain, or Google it here, you will see about 15 pages about hard to reach communities. When I go to these big events, I ask exactly who are you referring to? They are referring to the Black people, the Africans, the Caribbeans, the Asian people, and also white working class. I said to them, because I'm very cheeky, you know, and what we know they call feisty, okay? I said to them, to these big consultants and professors, are these Black people, including me, are we on Mount Everest? Are we, for argument's sake, and I have been to that mountain, the top of the Blue Mountain, are we there? Are we in the jungle? Are we on Mars or Jupiter? I don't need to go any further. No, we're not. If we were in those places, I would accept that we are hard to reach. But we're not. We all make up the community. There's sort of some talking going on, and it's distracting me. Could people try not to talk while I'm up here, please? I come from a teaching background, and I remember when I used to teach at Holy Childhood High School. If the children, first of all, come to class late, they stand outside, and after that, they never come late. And if they're talking while I'm up here trying to talk out of respect, all I do is fold my arms and wait on them to stop talking. It's about respect. I'm come from England to engage with you. Please try not to talk. It's distracting, okay? And we all here should know better. So the whole point is, hard to reach is condescending. It's patronizing. view it as being racist. No black person is hard to reach. If I can go and do 150 community events per year since I've retired, if Muhammad can't go to the mountain, where must the mountain go? To Muhammad. Okay? So if I can do it, I'm saying to doctors and nurses and the healthcare professionals, get from behind your ivory tower, get from behind your laptop, and go and engage with the community. So I will go to the barber shop, the hairdressers, the rum bar. This is what Jesus used to do. Jesus never used to stay in a temple and church. He went on to into the marketplace, the agora. He went on to the beach. That is where he went to find followers and so on. I do the same. What's the point of me going to a hospital, a clinic, or a doctor's surgery? The people are already there for a reason. So I go to places where I know the barbershop, the hairdressers, where they're playing the dominoes or the pub or the club. That's where I go and engage with people. I have about 10 of these different colors, and I have the hooded one as well. And people say, oh, you're Mr. Diabetes, aren't you? And I check out my card. I always have cards on me. And I say, yes, here's my card. Please take it. And that's how I get engagements, which is why I get 150 per year. So I don't subscribe to hard to reach, which is what that is saying there. I prefer historically excluded, historically neglected, historically ignored, marginalized, or underserved. And COVID-19 brought that to the fore, where a lot of the people, black people who died in Britain, who died from COVID-19, it was because they were not in the first place being given the proper attention in the National Health Service. So I'm there on a lot of August, very important bodies, shouting out in the voice for black people in Britain. I'm not going to just sit in silence. I've never been. My grandmother told me as a child, he's a bright little boy. Open your mouth and talk. Me not stop talk yet. Okay? So that's me. But moving on, as I said, prevention is better than cure. And by the end of the session, you'll get a clear take of why African, Caribbean, and Asian people are more prone or more susceptible to developing this medical condition. Now, over here in Jamaica and in the States, it is referred to as a non-communicable disease, NCD, or an acute disease. In Britain, when I was trained by Diabetes UK, I was told not to call it a non-communicable disease or acute disease. Call it a medical condition. So I know you probably have already been geared up to it being called a disease, but I will constantly refer to it as a medical condition. Let me just take you through the top 10 countries in the world where diabetes is rampant. Top 10. China, India, United States, Pakistan, Brazil, Mexico, Indonesia, Germany, Egypt, and Bangladesh. Within that, 5 of those countries are Asian countries, ASEAN. China, India, Pakistan, Indonesia, and Bangladesh. Now, some people, when I'm doing this event, say, Tony or Mr. Kelly, I have never seen a fat Chinese man or fat Chinese woman. If you have the idea in your head that it's only fat, overweight, or obese people who can develop diabetes, when you leave this church today, you are going to get rid of that idea. People who are skinny, I'm gonna keep it real, mager, can also develop this medical condition, diabetes. So it's not just fat people or overweight people, okay? So moving swiftly on, Britain is not in the top 10, nor is Jamaica, because only 3 million people live in Jamaica. Sometimes when I do the event, I say, name it, even before I show that, I say, name it the top 10 countries, and everybody shout out Jamaica. Only 3 million people live in Jamaica. Look, the one at number 10 is 8.4 million people in Bangladesh have diabetes. So Jamaica not in the top 10. However, Jamaica has a major diabetes problem. I'm keeping it very real, and we all need to wake up and smell the coffee. That is why I'm here from the 1st to the 12th of November doing these events in 7 parishes. That just shows every ethnicity, Chinese, African, Caribbean, white people, anybody can get diabetes. Worldwide, and these are not my figures, but worldwide, in 2021, last year, 537 million people, it is estimated, had diabetes. 537. That figure by 2030 is going to go up to 643 million people by 2030. Now, some people said to me, but that's far away. That's not anywhere near. Cast your mind back to the millennium, 1999, 2000. Ladies and gentlemen, what year are we now? Come on, what year are we? 22. You see how time has flown since the millennium came in? So 2030, next year's 2023, is 7 years away. And that shows you how it's going to increase to 643 million. However, by 2045, it's going to increase to 783 million. Now, I put this down to show you so you get the real idea. This is globally, worldwide, every 8 seconds in Britain, that's 5 and 3, 8. Every 8 seconds in the world, sorry, not Britain, stand corrected, in the world, someone dies from diabetes complications. Every 8 seconds in the world. So last year, 6.7 million people died from this one medical condition. So we just come through coronavirus and COVID. I don't think the figures for the world went up to as much as 6. It was a lot of million. But diabetes alone last year was responsible for the death of 6.7. And that's going to continue rising if we don't do something about it. Just bring you back to Britain, because I do not have figures, although I know it's big in Jamaica. Diabetes is big in the United Kingdom. 5 million people and rising have this medical condition in Britain. By now, it's nearly 6 million. And then the important thing is about 1 in 15, every 1 in 15 people in Britain have the medical condition and don't even know that they have it. And the reason is, and I'm going to suggest there might be some in here, they have not been to the GP, the health clinic, the doctor, the hospital. And I'm saying to you loud and clear, your body given to you by Jah, Allah, Jehovah, whoever you worship, is far more important to you than, listen to this, that motor vehicle that you like to drive and get the gear tested and the oil and the brakes and the wheels. That's a piece of junk or metal at the end of the day. Your body that Jesus or God has given to you, when I'm doing it among the Muslim, I have to use a different terminology. Your body is more important to you than that piece of junk or metal. What I'm saying to you, especially men, you need to go and get your health checks done yearly. You must go. Mine was diagnosed, I forgot to tell you this bit, but I'll bring it now. 18 years ago, 19 this Christmas, my wife noticed the 4 key symptoms that I might have diabetes. T for tired, T for toilet, T for thirsty, and T for thinner. Tired, toilet, thirsty, thinner. Ladies and gentlemen, I was getting up during the night 3 or 4 times to go to the toilet. My wife kept saying, something's wrong with you, something's wrong with you. But typical of most men are in denial. Most men are not in touch with their feelings or their emotions. Some of you have partners, fathers, uncles, or husbands. Most men not do doctors, full stop. All when them dead, at that time them start think, oh, me better go see who I need to see. And that is the issue. So I could take the nagging, and she's heard me speak on television, radio, all over the place. She says, yes, I was nagging you. Because there's no way. I would get up then the next morning and be very tired. So eventually I went with a sample of urine before any breakfast, before eating anything, went down to the doctor's or the GP surgery. And first of all, she put me in the computer and she said, so you're Mr. Kelly. I said, what do you mean by that? She said, the records show you have not been down to this surgery for 8 years. And I held my head down in shame. That's no longer the case though. So she put the dipstick in the urine, she held it up to the light, and she says, you have glucose or sugar. It's the same thing, glucose or sugar in your urine. And ladies and gentlemen, there should be none. She said, what I'm going to do is send off to the lab or the clinic a sample of your blood, and that will be the determinant of final analysis, whether you have the condition. and it came back as an early Christmas present. But you will remember me saying at the very beginning, various relatives of mine in Whitehall St. Thomas had the medical condition. So in my case, it is hereditary. It runs in the family. It's in the DNA or the genetics or the metabolism. So I then had a choice to make, and this is a choice. Do I still eat 6, 7, 8 tablespoons of rice and peas, which me love? Or do I make the behavioral or lifestyle changes to avoid getting the complications? And from that moment when I was diagnosed, I decided I saw firsthand in Whitehall the suffering of relatives. I wasn't prepared to go there. So I made the lifestyle changes, the behavioral changes, and you'll see later on, what do I do to keep not having to take medication? Not everybody is going to be as good as that. Some people have to be on medication. However, that's the issue for me, where I have managed to control it. And then, as I said, since 10.5 years ago, I'm on this mission, this campaign, to especially amongst Black people, get them. Because one I left off, apart from, I didn't say one, which is back in England, I go to a lot of funerals. As my grandmother used to say, I can't go to this funeral. Put on your Sunday best. I said, I don't know these people. She said, you're going to go represent the family. So I've been accustomed to going to funerals. And back in England, I asked, why did that person die in the 40s, 50s, 60s? And all I keep hearing is they died from diabetes complications. In this day and age, nobody in their 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s, or 70s should be dying early or prematurely, or what we would say, gone too amongst Jamaicans. When I say gone too soon, when I say gone too in Britain, some of the people say gone too quickly. They say you can't come from Jamaica. If you come from Jamaica, you know about gone too soon. Okay? And the others come up to me and say, I thought you say you're born in London. I'm born in London, but I grew up in Jamaica. So I'm amongst my own people. I speak the language of the people. Are you understanding me? Right, okay? So I am urging you, I beg you, and especially the men folk, take them grabbing and screaming. And no, in England, in the NHS, it no costs us nothing to go to, and I have people in England, want it, can't get it, and get it, no want it. You have people that I go to places in England, and they say, oh, I haven't been to my doctor in 10 years. I say, what? You know, go forget your medical checkup yearly, the health check. Here, I presume you have to pay for it. But I've been to the journey I'm on here. There's 3 health fairs. One was yesterday. There are 2 more health fairs to come. One in St. Mary and one in another parish. And all of these various people, and you're having one here. Reverend Gordon has organized one. Dr. Is it Hamlet? Hamlin, Hamill, doctor. So he's going to be doing that. Go get your checks done. It's not going to cost you. If you have to go to your doctor, it would probably have to cost you. That just shows how much it's increased from 1998, where it was only 1.4, to 2018, 3.8, and now we are in 2022. It's gone over the 5 million mark. 90% of people with diabetes have type 2. You must remember that 90% of people have type 2. 8% have type 1. 8% of people have type 1. 2% have rarer types of diabetes, which I tend not to talk about because I'm not medically qualified to do so. I focus on the 90% of people who have type 2. You're not seeing that, but I'm going to explain it to you. It's the wards in Birmingham and surrounding areas where diabetes is rampant. We talk about inner city areas, impoverished or inner city or deprived areas. So Handsworth, Aston, Nechells, Lozells, these are areas in Birmingham where they have a high level of diabetes. And I would say the equivalent over here would be probably, if I'm getting it right, Denham Town, Rima, Tivoli Gardens, areas like that, where because they're not eating the proper food that they should be eating. However, me go uptown. Me go in a Ligone Plaza on a Saturday since I've been here. And me going to other plazas. And in Britain, in those inner city areas, every second shop you pass is a fast food or takeaway, or what we in Britain call junk food. And just like how I showed you the video earlier of me learning to cook, go home, go learn to cook. Clear and simple. I'm not putting it any more plain than that. So when I go up uptown, and I was going down in the country area since being here, I said, what's that long line? The line for KFC. The line long stuff on here so to way out there so I'm back. And I said, what are these people lining up for? For them KFC. Admittedly, and I'll say this on tape, I have tasted KFC in Canada and in America and in England. Let me tell you something. Jamaica does the best KFC. Having said that though, you cannot be having it week in, week out, all the time. It is doing your body. You might think you're fine and so on. It eventually will take its toll on you. So for me, KFC, I'll be honest with you, it's probably 2 or 3 times a year. Okay? And I haven't even had any since I've come here, although I know it's very good for you. But I'm saying to you and to your relatives and your friends, and especially the men in your life, stop the whole heap of fast food and the takeaway. Let me name them. Popeyes, Wendy's, Burger King, KFC. How many know all of these? Island Grill. Me will stop this because there's more. And the Chinese takeaway and the pizza. The kids as young as 11, 12, 13, 14 in the Caribbean now have diabetes. That wasn't the case when I was growing up in the 60s. The only ones who had it back then were the older folk. Now the kids are all getting it. And that's simply because they are eating too much junk food and fast food, and their relatives and guardians and parents are not preparing nutritious food for them. And as for the pop, some of you, when I've done some online here, me used to know about aerated water. And people said, Tony, the youngsters don't know about aerated water. Pop or soda or fizzy drink. That now in the Kelly household. If you come and visit me in Birmingham, you're not getting a pop, you're not getting a soda, you're not getting a fizzy drink. Water, water, and more water. Water, that same thing water is for a purpose. 2 liters of water you should try to drink each day. It's for a purpose. The kidneys, the function of the kidneys is to flush out the poisons and toxins from your system so that your urine is a nice color. Okay? And a lot of elderly people become dehydrated because they do not drink enough water. Water that since we come made rain all the time. Water, water. We're a land of wood and water. So me not buying this thing of fizzy pop. And if you're going to give them orange juice or apple juice or pineapple juice, when they're not looking, especially children, dilute it because it is packed with sugar. Okay? Find methods of trying to get them to. We all have this sweet tooth, but we got to get rid of it as far as I'm concerned. Okay, moving swiftly. I know I'm touching on the runner when we talk about the KFC, but I'm trying to keep it real for the sake of everybody who wants to make the changes. This is why diabetes is serious. Every single week, not every fortnight or every quarter, or every 6 months, every single week, there are 500 premature deaths in Britain from diabetes. That is a fact. Every single week, gone too soon. Every single week, there are 176 lower limb amputations, chopping off of toes and feet from diabetes. Every single week from this one medical condition, 680 strokes, 550 heart attacks every week in Britain from diabetes, and 2,000 cases of heart failure. Diabetes is also the leading cause of preventable sight loss or avoidable sight loss of people of working age in the United Kingdom. And I'm going to tell you something. Some of you might wear glasses or might not wear glasses, and you start to squint and you're not seeing the small print properly, or you can't see the images on the television. And then you seem to think, oh, it's because I'm in my 50s, 60s, 70s. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one thing may I beg you. It is nothing to do with your age. It is the diabetes having its wicked way at the back of your eyes, causing you to have blurred vision and to go blind. And I can tell you there's a country in the Commonwealth that I went to 4 years ago, Dominica. There's more blind people in Dominica than any other country in the Commonwealth. Until they suddenly realized, hang on, something's not right here. And they started to bring in the specialists, and they started the opticians and so on. Every year, I don't wear glasses, I have perfect vision. But every year I have to go to the optician in High Street in Birmingham. They put the drops in my eyes. They take a lot of pictures. They send them off to the lab. It's all free. And it comes back and it says, Mr. Kelly, your eyesight is perfect. There is no diabetes retinopathy. It's a big word, diabetes or digital retinopathy. So I do this eye screening. And so many people say to me, you know, Mr. Kelly or Tony, it's not my GP who discovered I had diabetes, you know. It's when I went for my annual checkup with my optician, because I wear glasses. The person said, I don't like what I see forming at the back of your eyes. You must go to your GP and get a blood test done. So many people have said that to me in the 10.5 years that I've been doing the training. So Dominica is blindness. Barbados, where I'm going to on the 13th, Barbados has a 99% literacy rate. And you know what they have highest in the Caribbean? Chopping off of feet and toes. More people in Barbados lose their toes and feet because of diabetes complications. And I'll come on to that more as to why that is, okay? So foot care is very important. It's an expensive thing, diabetes. Some of you might have won the lottery if you gamble, or the lotto. This says 10 billion. Some of you might have won 10 million. That says 10 billion pounds, not dollars, is spent every single year by the National Health Service on this one condition, diabetes. There are some countries in the world that do not have 10 billion pounds as their gross domestic product. And here we are in Britain spending 10 billion on one condition. That's a lot of money, okay? 1/10 of the National Health Service budget. And this is where, I've got to put this, can somebody help me? This has got to go here. Why this video play. It's a 2-minute video.
There are two main types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. They're different conditions, but they're both serious. There are some other rarer types of diabetes too. What all types of diabetes have in common is that they cause people to have too much glucose in their blood. But we all need some glucose. It's what gives us our energy. We get glucose when our bodies break down the carbohydrates that we eat or drink, and that glucose is released into our blood. We also need a hormone called insulin. It's made by our pancreas, and it's insulin that allows the glucose in our blood to enter our cells and fuel our bodies. If you don't have diabetes, your pancreas senses when glucose has entered your bloodstream and releases the right amount of insulin so the glucose can get into your cells. If you have diabetes, this system doesn't work. When you've got type 1 diabetes, you can't make any insulin at all. If you've got type 2 diabetes, it's a bit different. The insulin you make either can't work effectively or you can't produce enough of it. In both types of diabetes, because glucose can't get into your cells, it begins to build up in your blood. And too much glucose in your blood causes a lot of different problems. To begin with, it leads to diabetes symptoms like having to wee a lot, being incredibly thirsty, and feeling very tired. You may also lose weight, get infections like thrush, or suffer from slow healing wounds. Over a long period of time, high glucose levels in your blood can seriously damage your heart, your eyes, your feet, and your kidneys. These are known as the complications of diabetes. But with the right treatment and care, people can live a healthy life. And there's much less risk that someone will experience these complications. If you've got diabetes, you can find lots of information and support about living with it using our website and helpline. As well as campaigning for everyone with diabetes to get the right care, Diabetes UK fund research into all types of diabetes so we can develop new treatments and one day find a cure.
One day find a cure. There's no cure.
You can find out more about type 1 and type 2 diabetes and how they're treated in our next videos.
So now I've been mic'd, we won't bother to use that anymore. No, I won't use that, I'm just use that. So I'm going to do a lot of movement as well. That video is on the Diabetes UK website called What is Diabetes? You need to show it to your relatives, your contacts, your friends, and so on. It's just 2 minutes long. But I'll name you 4 people who have type 1 diabetes. I'll start off. The person who does the voiceover in that is a man named Philip Schofield. It's getting an echo. Should I use the mic? Huh? I think I'll use the mic. Huh? Try again. Hello? Hello? You hearing me? Testing. Am I being heard? Huh? I'm thinking of the people who are online. I need them to hear as well. Am I being heard now? Huh? Okay. So there are 4 people I'm going to mention to you who have type 1 diabetes. And I'm going to explain what type 1 is, although it was explained there. The chap in that does the voiceover, Philip Schofield, is an announcer, broadcaster, early morning presenter. He has type 1 diabetes. The next person I'm going to mention to you who has type 1 diabetes is Theresa May, who was once Prime Minister of Great Britain. The third person I'm going to mention to you, some of you should know her, Halle Berry, the well-known Black American actress, has type 1 diabetes. The fourth person I'm going to mention to you, some of you might know him if you're into sport, Sir Stephen Redgrave. He was an Olympic rower for Britain, and he won 5 gold medals on the trot every 4 years, 5 gold medals rowing for Britain. He has type 1 diabetes. Now I'm going to explain to you what type 1 is. Remember, only 8% of people have type 1. We have an organ here, right here, called the pancreas. It is 6 inches in length, okay? It produces the hormone insulin. Insulin is produced. Without insulin, you will die. You cannot survive without insulin. So we give credit to Sir Frederick Banting. I was at his homestead a few years ago in Canada. Sir Frederick Banting, a doctor in Canada, along with his medical student, Charles Best, saw a meager dog, or to put it frankly, a mager dog outside, and they made up this concoction, artificial man-made concoction, injected it into the dog, and the dog made a remarkable recovery. That was how insulin was discovered 101 years ago, as far back as that. Of course, it's been made better since, just like how Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin. So, on the 14th of November each year is celebrated as World Diabetes Day, because that was his birth date, okay? Anybody who has to take the insulin, the type 1, because they're not making any, they have to inject the insulin in their stomach 3 times per day to keep them alive. That's type 1. Some people don't like to do that, so they get an insulin pump and they strap the pump to their side, and the insulin drips slowly but surely. And so when I go to schools and colleges, they say to me, "So, sir, can the person have a shower or a bath?" Of course, you can take the pump off for a while, put it aside, go and have your shower or your bath, but you have to put it back on. You can survive without an eye. I'm finding this very awkward. You can survive without an eye, a leg, arm, or any teeth, or bald head like me. You cannot survive without insulin. What insulin does through the pancreas, it regulates the food you eat and drink. Are you with me? So the food you eat and drink gives an understanding. So that's type 1. Type 2, some of the people with type 2, like me, either the pancreas is not making enough insulin or it's not doing its job properly. And as you get on in age, then the insulin starts decreasing, so you're not making it. Now, there are some people, in the olden days, they don't call it anymore. I have a cousin, and he developed type 1 when he was about 11. Juvenile diabetes, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. That's when the pancreas as well completely packs in altogether. But they don't use the word juvenile. But having said that, some people, you need to understand, once you have diabetes, there is no known cure for it. So if you're told by your GP or your doctor or whoever, you're borderline, I'm asking you, this is why you're going to get your health checks. Make the lifestyle or behavioral changes, because once you get the condition, it is very hard to be reversed or to go into remission. Okay? So if you're told you're pre-diabetes, then do something about it. That the only way you can find out is by doing your health checks with your, like here, what's happening here with Dr. Hamill, or going to your doctor. So age is a factor. The older you get, diabetes will creep upon you. Family history, you heard me say it runs in my family, so it's hereditary. Ethnicity, and I'm going to show you a slide in a minute which shows how much us as Black people are more prone or more susceptible to developing this medical condition. Weight and body mass. Although I did say people can get it, the more weight that you're carrying around here, the chances are diabetes will come your way. And I'll explain that in a bit. Waist circumference as well. Now, they're all grown-up people in here. Some men trying to make love to their partner, because there's too much blood or blood sugar in their system, they cannot have an erection. Basically, the penis flops. It is called erectile dysfunction. And there are men who suffer from that because of the whole heap of blood sugar or blood glucose in their system. Then, of course, we mentioned the heart attacks, the strokes, the high blood pressure, which we as Black people suffer from. That people with diabetes suffer from a lot of high blood pressure, have to go on tablets, and high cholesterol. Who knows what is gestational diabetes? Shout out. Come on, shout out. Who knows what is gestational? Am I hearing it? Who knows so shy? Come on. Gestational diabetes is during the gestation period of some women during pregnancy. It's not type 1, it's not type 2, it's actually called gestational diabetes, and it's only during the pregnancy. But not every woman has this, some. But what it is saying to that mother is she is at risk in later life of developing type 2 diabetes, and the children she's had are also at risk in later life of developing type 2. That's just diabetes. Who knows, any bright spark in here, what is impaired glucose regulation? Doctors use it a lot, and I say to them when they use it, speak the language of the people. They're big words for Oxford and Cambridge and Birmingham University. Get real and keep it. So who knows what that is? I'd be most surprised if somebody, is there a doctor in the house? No, they're outside. I'll tell you, impaired glucose regulation means you are pre-diabetes or borderline. You haven't got the condition yet, so you're on the border. And so many people come after me and say, Tony, Mr. Kelly, you know, my doctor did tell me I'm pre-diabetes or borderline. And then I straight look them in the eye and say, what have you done about it? I'm not doing nothing, sir. I feel like slap them. Because if you get told that you are pre-diabetes or borderline, make the lifestyle changes, the behavioral changes, so you know, get the condition. Are you with me? Yeah? And the only way you can find out whether you're pre or borderline is by going and getting your health checks. You understand that? Okay? So, happens a lot. Steroid-induced diabetes. And I'll tell you who it happens to. Some people have diseases of one description or another and have to go on steroids. I am not saying you must take yourself off steroids. It's your GP who has to decide on that. But the steroids can become so damaging of the pancreas and cause you to have damage your pancreas and cause you to have steroid-induced diabetes. It's not type 1, it's not type 2, it's not gestational, it's steroid-induced. And on top of that, muscle, those guys who like to do all the muscle building, and women as well, lots of muscle building and so on, some of them inject into their calves, their thighs, their triceps, their biceps. They're storing up problems for themselves because if they keep doing that, it can damage the pancreas and they have for life steroid-induced diabetes. Are you with me?
this is us now as Black people. People from African, Caribbean, and South Asian backgrounds are 2 to 4 times more likely to develop type 2 diabetes than white people. 2 to 4 times more likely. And this is when they get it. From age 25. And I'm looking around and I don't see many people in here under the age of 25. From you reach age 25, and so we have children and grandchildren, tell them to go and get themselves checked. White people get it, diabetes, 15 years later, round about age 40. And people say to me, Tony, why is that? It is to do with our genes, our genetics, our DNA, or metabolism. Also, environmental factors like living in an overcrowded place, stress. Stress is another main thing. You have to try and get rid of the stress. And in England, with the racism, there's a lot of stress and a lot of bother and so on. Poor diet. If you're leading a poor diet, it will lead to you getting diabetes. Couch potato, or sedentary, sitting on your proverbial for most of the day will lead to you possibly getting diabetes. You have to be moved. There's an organization out here called Jamaica Movement, and I'm going to be doing some physical activity with you. You will not hear me use the word exercise. Exercise conjures up images. Tony wants you to go to the gym. I'm not wanting you to go to the gym. I'm wanting you to do physical activity, even if in your 80s or 90s, in the comfort of your home. Okay? So, moving swiftly on, this is the one I want to bring. Some people sometimes when I have this around my waist, then say, they ask me if I run duppy. I said, no, I'm not run duppy, but let me tell you what this is about. Some of you might remember the Miss Jamaica or Miss World competition. The perfect figure going down the catwalk back in the day, 36-inch waist, hips, the beg your pardon, 36-inch bust, 24-inch waist, and a 36-inch hip. Show me a woman with a 24-inch waist these days. I'll give you a tenner from Britain. They don't exist. This is a score, and that says it quite clearly. From your belly button or navel string, not from your trousers down here, so from your belly button, all women, regardless of your ethnicity, all women must aim for, and before I say the measurement, I accept that some women are bigger than others. They've had children or they've just been born big or so on. So let's say the woman is 40 inches here, okay? All me I beg the woman to do is come down from 40 to 38 or 36. Because where, remind me, did I say the pancreas is? Come on, where did I say it is? Here. And if you have all of this fat around here, it is preventing the pancreas from producing the insulin to regulate the blood and the food and the drinks. You're with me? So this is the ideal weight for all women. Some of you are going to be surprised. Ideally, all women should be 31.5 inches. And some of you are looking at yourself and saying, Lord Jesus, I forgot to say about mine. You ain't going to get there. Let's be realistic. Come on. So all I'm saying to you, and for those who are metric, the other side says 79 centimeters. All I'm asking the women folk here to do is if you're 42, try and get down to 38. And if you're 40, try and get your measurement. Not only as a belly button, down to take off a foot. That's men now. Let me move to men. Asian men, and this is all on the Diabetes UK website. I'm not making this up. I'd be telling fibs if I were making it up. Asian men are allowed to have a measurement from the belly button of 35 inches. So all them Asian men will have them belly out here so and see them want to see them belly. Then if you start get it in. 35 inches Asian men are allowed. So if the Asian man is 44, for argument's sake, work on him to come from 44 down to about 40. It will allow the pancreas to do much better what it should be doing naturally. Are you with me? White men and black men, we are allowed, I'm going to ask you this later, so you better pay attention, 37 inches, 2 more inches than Asian men. Okay? That's important for you to know. Now, this is a bit where I talked about MAGA earlier. There's a word called TOFI. Thin on the outside, fat on the inside. So sometimes you see a man or a woman who is as skinny as a rake or who is mager, proper mager. And they say to you that they have diabetes. And you say, no, you can't have diabetes. Only fat, overweight, obese people. Diabetes, the fat can go and be stored around the liver and around the pancreas, although the person is skinny. Are you with me? So if a skinny person tell you they have diabetes, don't just say, no, that can't be possible. Okay, moving swiftly on. So going to the toilet, I mentioned at the beginning the 4 T's. T for tired, T for toilet, T for thirsty, T for thinner. Those are the 4 main symptoms. But there's also thrush and genital itching for some people, slow healing of cuts and wounds, which I'm going to talk about in a second, blurred vision, which I mentioned, extreme tiredness, and the weight loss, just losing this weight rapidly and you don't know what's wrong with you. Can we all together read at the bottom, please? Now, may I put on my teaching hat? That was read very funky and weaky. There's a lot of you in here. I want you to read it with gusto and feeling. Can we read it again, please? I want you to remember that. So if you're out there and thinking you're macho or you're manly or whatever, you're a woman and everything's right, it can just creep upon you and you don't know. Sometimes there are no symptoms, no tired, no toilet, no thirsty, no thinner, no blurred vision. You need to go and get your health checks done. Are you with me on that? Now, the one I'm going to talk about now is slow healing of cuts and wounds. This is a true story. I'm in the house of the Lord, so I wouldn't tell no lie here. A few years ago, I got to a gym, and a few years ago, I didn't see a chap who used to come there regularly. But because I wear these all the time, 30,000 feet in the air or in the market or wherever, this chap saw me out in 6 Ways, Birmingham, and said, hello, you're Mr. Diabetes, because it shows on what I'm wearing. He says, go and look for my brother in Dudley Road City Hospital. And I said, why? He said, I'm not telling you, go. I went to look for this gentleman. Now, this is a man who, especially in the summer months, the muscles, the biceps, the triceps, they didn't wear the tightest shorts possible, and I show all the thighs and so on, as if it is Mr. Universe or Arnold Schwarzenegger. He pulled off the cover from his bed sheets. And I said, what happened here? This is a true story. He was at home with his son, and a glass dropped and broke in the kitchen. And it went into his big toe. Typical man, and this is the issue with men in particular, in that they take antiseptic and Dettol or try to get the toe better. But instead of the toe getting better, the toe got worse. Papa Power winner Jamaica, that said tembe, sore foot. Okay? And somebody visited him, not me, and said, I don't like the smell of your toe. You need to go to the doctor. So reluctantly, he went to the doctor. The doctor took one look at his toe and said, you either have gangrene or septicemia. You need to get yourself down to the hospital. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, he went to the hospital. They chopped off his big toe. The gangrene or septicemia, which he had developed because he had diabetes, by the way, and he didn't even know he had it, spread to the other 4 toes. They, say, enough yet. They chopped off the other 4 toes. And then the gangrene or septicemia had spread up to here. They chopped off his leg just below the knee. That is a true story. Remember I showed you one earlier where there are 176 lower limb amputations in Britain? You know what happened? He closed all the curtains because they had to fit him now with a prosthetic limb. And this macho man who was all over the place showing off his muscles and triceps and biceps, suddenly having to get used to this. Depression set in. He became depressed, closed the curtains, and wouldn't leave his home. And I used to have to ring him and say, you have lost a leg. You haven't lost your life. Try and get out of that dark cloud that's hanging over you, which he managed to do, and he's fine now. So what I'm trying to say to you here is, please, may I beg you, all on these nice sunny beaches, and when you're at home on your veranda, do not walk around barefoot, because if the marker or if the needle or the pin or the thumbtack or the glass bottle or the rusty nail go into your feet and you are not feeling the nerve endings. I have to go every year to my diabetic nurse. Once a year she sees me and she says, look away. And I say, okay. And she does that. Put your feet up. And I said, but you didn't touch me. And she said, ah. But then eventually she uses a prong and touches all parts of my feet to make sure that my nerve endings are okay. Because that's the issue with people with diabetes people, where they're not taking care of their feet and they buck their toe and they're not seeing to it properly, or a needle go up in their toe or a mark or so on. That is what causes the soreness. They're not feeling nerve endings and eventually have to get their toes and feet amputated. My grand aunt who raised me, she had 3 of her toes amputated because she had a sore there and it wasn't getting better. Slow healing of cuts and wounds. Are you with me? I'm begging you out there, no matter where you, when we were kids growing up, we used to run barefoot. We used to go to school barefoot and so on. But I'm saying to you all now, it's a different age we live in because of the food you're eating and so on, and so on. Wear slippers. I have a whole heap of these. My daughter introduced me to them. They're called Birkenstock. They're very expensive, but I wait till they're in the sale, and then I go buy different types of them, and I wear them in the summer months. In the winter, you will get chilblains if you wear these in the winter. So I have to put on shoes, boo. So eye disease is an issue, as we said earlier. Heart disease, cardiovascular. Kidney disease, so many people, I go visit the hospitals and you see so many people on dialysis. And dialysis out here, I remember I used to have to send money for one of my relatives in St. Elizabeth who had to have dialysis 2-3 times a week. It's a very, very expensive thing. Am I not right in saying that? Yes. So to avoid all of that, get the water that I mentioned, try and drink 2 liters of water to keep flushing out the kidneys. And it doesn't have to be water. It can be grapes, oranges, tangerines, mangoes. That's with liquid you're having in as well. So it don't have to necessarily be water. But older people need to keep more hydrated. Then, of course, the nerve disease, and which is the feet and the fingers, okay? I'm going to ask you to take a picture of that. It's very important. Take out your mobile phone and take a picture of that. Because even before you get to the GP, you can go to the Diabetes UK website and go to the Know Your Risk tool. It will actually, if you go to it, over 1.5 million people have been to this website. You put in your height, your weight. It tells you your gender, male or female, your ethnicity, and your waist size. It can actually work out for you, even before you get to the doctor, whether you are no risk, NO risk, low risk, LOW risk, medium risk, or high risk. And if you come into the medium or high risk, it signposts you in Britain. It won't signpost you. You have to put in your postcode, or what in America they call zip code. It signposts you because they're realizing so many people in Britain have diabetes now that it will signpost you to a group to go, and this is for people with pre-diabetes, they haven't got it yet. And over 8 to 9 month period, you do work on food and nutrition and physical activity. Know Your Risk tool. It is a very, very good tool. And don't put in false measurements. Put in your right waist size and your height and so on. And then, so eat a healthy balanced diet, be more active, and stop smoking. And this is when I am going to do all of you my activity. I hope the ones online are able to see it. First of all, I know it's hot in Jamaica, okay? But you do have some cool days sometimes. Instead of the robot or the taxi or the bus drop you off at your stop, come off at the stop before, not nighttime though, in the daytime. The stop before or the stop after, and you walk briskly, so that the heart muscles are doing what they're supposed to do naturally, circulating the blood around the system. That is number 1 for you. I'm not expecting you to walk like you're going behind a coffin or a casket at a funeral. You're not going to get no benefit from that. So you have to walk briskly, okay? Even me, I'll tell you before I go on to the others what I do every single week, and I've done for 10, 11 years. I go to a Pilates class. I go to a yoga class. I do badminton with my cousin. I go to an aquarobics class where you go in the water and the instructor is there and she put on the music and you're moving your hand and the feet to the water, in the water, a group of you. So Pilates, badminton, aquarobics. Now some of you might laugh. I go to a Zumba class. And most Zumba classes is women only. And sometimes I'm the one dege man in there. And I say to them, you know what? I am the rose amongst you thorns. I am thinking back to what I saw firsthand back in Whitehall, St. Thomas, Jamaica. And I ain't going there. So I just got there and I've been going for 10, 11 years. Then, 3 years ago, I read an article that Linford Christie, and some of you should know who Linford Christie is, because he's Jamaican born, but he ran for Britain. Linford Christie learned to swim, out water swimming, out in the ocean, what have you. I thought if it's good enough for Linford Christie, it's good enough for Tony Kelly. When I was growing up in Jamaica, my granny said, you're my favorite grandson. You're not going to river. You're not going to beach. You're not going here. I never learned to swim. And there is this myth around that most black people cannot swim. This one decided, you know what, never learn to swim. So I started at Birmingham University where I studied, and I started going there for my swimming lessons. And about 3 months ago, 4 months ago, they said, you know, you're very good, you know. I said, really? They moved me from the beginners group, not to advanced, to intermediary. That deserves a round of applause. Thank you. And I am proof. And all these women said, no, me can't get me here wet and all this. Put on bathing cap. Look, so I've been to several beaches since I've been here on holiday. You know, Fort Clarence Beach and Strawberry Fields. And I went to another one as well. And the point I'm making is most of the people I see on the beach, just stay there at the beach side, are just flatter in the water. And in that port at Fort Clarence, the chap said to me, but you can swim. I'm the only one bodyguard here. Whether day or night, ask me if I want to come to bodyguard. You see, England, me come from. I have to go back home. But when I tell my wife this, I'm told her that she's going to say, your head must be swelling. I say, yes. Because we know, so we go from not being able to swim. It's never too late for a shower of rain. And whether you're 70 or 80, you know, I have to swim, but try and find something else then. Sorry? Huh? If you're paddling, yes, because you're doing some physical activity. So I'm going to do the things I want you to start doing now. Can't do all of them. First one was the bus stop. The second one is this one. The good old television. When we got back to England, 1979, they only had BBC One, BBC Two, ITV, and probably Channel 4 came later. Every time you needed to change the channel, you got off your posterior and you went over to the channel and you change the channel or you turn it on or off or the volume. This is what an evening Jamaica most of you do. Beep, 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 beep. You know what I want you to do? You know what I want you to do? And I am dead serious. Hide the remote control or put dead batteries in it or take out the batteries. And within an hour, if you have to get up from your seat, no matter how old or how firm or whatever you are or young, if you have to get up from your seat and go and change the channel or do this or do that, whatever you turn it, you have done some physical activity. Are you with me? You have some of them in England and try to catch me up. But Tony, the smart screen and the flat screen television, no, not the side. Every television station built has either on the side or the back or the bottom have the button off and on the channel. So don't give me that. Don't try that one with me. Okay? The next thing I want you to do is this. And I expect you, when I get invited back by Reverend Gordon, I expect you to be Arnold Schwarzenegger with the big muscles and so on. You're going to start with plastic. It is simple. I'm not saying you're in the gym. Plastic bottles, not glass bottles, okay? You are supposed to, when it falls, it just falls and doesn't break. You're going to stay right in the comfort of your home. And let me do it so that the people on the Zoom can see properly. And all you're doing is sitting down and you're doing this. These are muscles you have not used in years. I beg you, start with this, then you do it like this, then you go up this and up and up and up. Because what you're doing, the blood glucose or blood sugar, you are getting rid of that excess, which is causing you to be unwell and get that. Are you with me? Then you want up your to be nice and toned and down your some marga like what? So you're going to do the feet as well. And we know we in Jamaica, we love rhythm. So put on the reggae music, put on the Bob Marley, put on the Burning Spear, put on the out order slack lyrics and so on. Decent music. And you just do. If you go on any YouTube, you see them, they're all there. Exactly. And you don't have to. People call me Mr. Motivator II. There was a black guy named Derek Evans who was in England. He's now back in England. They come to Jamaica. I am Mr. Motivator II. The next one I'm going to do for you is the walking group. So 4 people, 1, 2, 3, 4 are in a walking group. Not waiting at the hot boiling sun. Wait till evening sort of cool. So early morning. So she calls on her friend, a neighbor. She ready? She got 4 you going in. And she said, you know, my head hurt me. I not think me can bother go. Or may have toothache. But this one is very assertive. And she said, listen, we've got 4 or 5 more people to pick up on the walk. So gather yourself and get yourself ready. And we have to wait for her because she have to put on her makeup and comb her hair. You know, she was determined she wasn't going. So this is where you're being assertive. And we call on this woman. And she said, what you couldn't so long? You think I know me a wait? We tell her the story about that one. Then we go for this gentleman over here. And he said, you know, we did have some drink last night. And me not feel too right. And all we have to say to him, say, listen, the fresh air will do you the world of good. Come. And all 4 or 5 or 6 of you start walk. May I beg you, no walk on flat surfaces. You will gain no benefit from walking on flat surfaces. You find hills and gradients and slopes. And then you start walk. And you talk about Reverend Garden, and you talk about the church, and you talk about your children and your grandchildren. And you say, and by the way, you know, in Britain, 3 prime ministers they have in just 6 months. And you talk about President Trump, and you talk about the general election, and you don't realize a group you have all. And even if some are slower, you go further up and you wait on them to catch up. Watch, you do that for 3 months. Watch the weight suddenly start drop off, literally drop off, to allow the pancreas to do what it should do. Are you with me? Right. Another one I want to do for you is elderly people. Elderly people like to sit at home all day and plunk them in front of the television. Start doing this. One on this side, one on that side. Be very patient with elderly people because it's not something they're used to. And what you're going to do is try and raise them up. And they will say, what will you get me up for? I want to sit down here. You say, no, granny, grandma, or uncle, or dad, or so, we're going to do some, not say exercise, just a physical activity. And it might take them 2 minutes to stand up. And then you take time and you put them down. And when Reverend Gordon invite me back here, you say, you know, my granny now can do 10 of these, don't stop, up and down, because it becomes a habit, a force. I also said the same. I go on airplanes a lot, and people are traveling, going to England or Canada or America, and sit down in the plane for 19 hours. Deep vein thrombosis will set in. In your seat, you're supposed to be wiggling your toes up and down. This is not diabetes, but this is just plain common sense. You wiggle, if you come in a church and halfway through, you want to stand up and praise the Lord or whatever. But you need to wiggle your toes and your feet in order for the circulation. Because if you don't, when you come off the plane, your feet will be swollen. And that is when, and sometimes that happens in people's homes. I go to residential homes and they have them sitting down here in a circle 8-9 hours. I said, no, you can't do that. They need to be able to do some movement. So that's another thing. Notice a lot of high-rise buildings going up in Jamaica. I was last year, 2016, with the family. Lots of high-rise buildings in New Kingston. In Britain, I don't do elevators. I refuse to go in an elevator or a lift. Your feet were made for walking. So when the lift come and they say, I know with elderly people that is not going to be possible. But when the lift come and they say, what floor you want? I said, well, I'm going up to the 20th floor. And they said, well, are you Superman? I said, no, I'm not Superman, but I am going to walk up there. And I walk up there and the lift stop at the 3rd, the 5th, the 9th, the 11th, the 12th. Me could have had a cup of coffee or tea waiting on the lift. Exactly. So that's another thing I do. I'm not so sure about here, but in Britain, most of the bigger supermarkets have something called the travelator. When you go into the escalator, when you go into the into the supermarket, there is a travelator, and right next to the travelator is the steps or stairs. 99% of people in Britain will plunk themselves on the travelator to travel like to the door there. Ask yourself the question, you have a travelator in your yard? No, you don't. So what the difference you going into the supermarket to use the travelator? Use the stairs. Here's one I always ask, and it gets a laugh sometimes. How many people in here were born in a motor car? If you were born in a motor car, raise your hand. I ask it every time. 2 people so far have raised their hand, and they said, Tony, Mr. Kelly, I was born in an ambulance on the way to the hospital. I said, okay, I'll forgive you. But the issue I have is, why the dickens? You're going 400 yards down the road, you have to drive. When we grew up in a White House, St. Thomas, Jamaica, in the bush, we walk to school, we walk home from school, summertime, and this is another one for you, grandchildren, for your grandchildren and your children. The PlayStation, the Game Boy, the phone. Take it away from them and make them go out, they go play cricket or rounders or netball or volleyball or hopscotch or soccer. They will become square-eyed and it will eventually affect their sight. I am begging you, these things, natural things. If you give me which growing up I would want. Nowadays growing up, I'd one of my grand era of the 60s. Any day would have come to the 60s. It's far better. Are you with me? So be more active, whatever you're doing, even if you're an elderly person and you can't do the physical activity that I'm suggesting, even do the feet and the hands and so on. Quickly going through HbA1c. All of you, if you don't have sickle cell trait, sickle cell anemia, or thalassemia, if you go to your doctor and give a sample of your blood, he or she can actually tell you what you've ate or drank for the last 3 months. That is fact, absolute fact. I have something called the sickle cell trait, not the full-blown sickle cell anemia, which causes you to have crisis and you're in pain and so on, just the trait. If my daughter was born, if my wife had the sickle cell trait, our daughter could have had the full-blown sickle cell. So I can't do the HbA1c. I do fructosamine test. And a fructosamine test can only tell you what you've ate or drank in the last 2 weeks. Only the last 2 weeks, no longer than that. And that's the one I do, which is very good. I'll quickly move on. Blood pressure. I don't have blood pressure issues, but sometimes when I go to the doctor's GP clinic, my heart starts to beat fast. And then they say, I tell them to take 3 readings, and then it's the lower of the 3, the middle one, that they should take. And last year I went, and the readings were still high. And she said, I'm going to give you a blood pressure monitor, because I could see her going down the route of wanting to put me on blood pressure tablets. I don't do tablets. I don't do tablets if I can help it. So she put the monitor on me, 24 hours. I went back with it, and they analyzed it. And they said, Mr. Kelly, your blood pressure is fine. You know what the issue is for me? I suffer from something called white coat syndrome. If a doctor walks in here now with a white coat and a stethoscope, the heart starts beating. And I'll tell you why mine happened. When I was a child, they used to, instead of fixing your teeth, they would haul out your teeth, and they hauled out two of my teeth without putting the proper amount of anesthetic in it. I have never felt pain so bad. And because of that, me no like doctors, me no like dentists, anybody in a white coat syndrome, that's the actual name for it. And some people suffer from it. So when you go, and then the nurse say, I'm going to put you on blood pressure tablets, you need to say to her, give me a chance to relax myself more. Give me a chance to think that I'm on the sunny beach in Jamaica. Or give me the monitor so that I can wait for a little while. You with me? You mustn't put doctors on a pedestal. They are human beings like us. And nobody knows your body better than. Exactly. Pernicious anemia, I'll quickly say, because elderly people have this condition, lacking in vitamin B12, pernicious anemia, lacking. And I had it a few years ago. I was feeling tired, more tired than usual. I went and they said, vitamin B12, you're lacking. This is a cure for vitamin B12. You have to have an injection every 3 months in your bottom. Every 3 months, a B12 injection. And I said to the doctor, that's not happening in a million years. I have doctors and nurses in my family. I'm going to go to the Pernicious Anemia Society website, and I'm going to see what I need to do. So I needed to increase my dairy products and some other things. You can look it up, what best foods. I went back 3 months later, and she said, it shot up into the right range. And I jokingly said to her, so what the dickens she was wanting to juke me in the bottom for the rest of my life every 3 months for? This is what I'm saying to people. Don't just take whatever thing straight off. Ask and ask again. I'll seek a second opinion. So I take something called the Metatone. No, my wife takes the Metatone tonic, which you can get at most chemists over here, I think. I take one called Floradix, which is equally good. But elderly people need to top up on their vitamin B12. Years ago, I had a kidney stone. First time ever a kidney stone. The most painful thing imaginable. It's like a man giving birth to a child. You're talking about pain here. I woke up in the morning and said to my wife, God, my appendix has burst. But my wife's brighter than me. She said, don't be silly. Your appendix is not on that side. And I said, I don't know. I'm in pain. I'm suffering. We called the ambulance. I went. And the doctor said, the kidney stones have been formed because you love full fat milk. The more fat on top of the milk, the cream, even nowadays, people when they come and say, Kelly, you still drink the whole heap of cream or milk? Not anymore. As adults, you should not be drinking cow's milk. I'll repeat it. You should not be drinking cow's milk. And as for condensed milk, which everybody may see in the places I visited are having, it's an absolute no-no. You should be drinking plant-based milk. If you want to write them down, plant-based milk, oat milk, rice milk, almond milk, cashew milk, and good old coconut milk. Those are all plant-based, and those are the milks you should be drinking. Some people say, and I do have occasionally, goat milk, but may I beg you, stop drinking cow's milk. Cow's milk, as my mother told me when she heard about what happened, she was in the States, she's died now, she said, cow's milk is for the formation of bones and teeth in babies and adults. Babies and children. We as adults don't need to have cow's milk. And the cows these days, they put so much injection in them and this, that, and the other, and so on. No. Stay away from cow's milk if you can, okay? These milk I've mentioned, and taste bad like what? It becomes an acquired taste. After a while, you get used to it. Moving on. So eat a healthy, balanced diet. Look who gets diabetes more than any other. And tell me why. Taxi drivers, bus drivers, van drivers, tube drivers, lorry drivers. Why? They're sitting down for most of the day. Then when they go home, they sit in front of the television I watch them now watch the television, and then go to their bed. And they do that on a routine, Monday through to Friday of the weekend. They are more prone or susceptible to getting diabetes. If you're on medication, take it. There is a thing, a buzzword in Britain called social prescribing. I'm going to leave it with you, and you go and ask your doctor about it. The GP practices in Britain and the National Health Service realized that they were just doling out medication. And it masks the problem. Drugs sometimes mask the problem. It doesn't deal with the underlying causes. So social prescribing is a new thing, whereby when you go to your doctor's surgery now, him not give you or she don't give you tablets. On their budget, on their GP budget, they give you a course of Pilates or Zumba or an allotment for you to go dig up and plant things or what have you, or swimming lessons or whatever you take, whatever takes your fancy. That is to help you more toned up and do more physical activity and come back and see them in 3 months' time. It's called social prescribing, okay? And if you're on medication, control your blood glucose. Now, some of you are going to find this hard to believe. This chap knows me well, and he calls on me to do a lot of work. And he used to firmly believe in the whole issue of vegetable smoothies or fruit smoothies. As of today, you are no longer going to have vegetable smoothies, which is the broccoli, the kale, the callaloo, the spinach, the lettuce, or fruit smoothies. Your mouth was made in such a way that you must crunch the apple, the ripe banana, the kale, the callaloo, the Brussels sprout. You're supposed to chew it. The saliva in here does what it's supposed to do. It goes down in here, and think of your general science and biology days. The peptic acids and the amino acids do what they're supposed to do and dissipate it all over the body. I'll demonstrate what happens when you have a smoothie. This is what happens. It either come out here, sir, or there, sir. The stomach has not had the chance to do what it should be doing naturally had you eaten it. Are you with me? Then as for the smoothies in the supermarket, they are packed with sugar. So don't even go there with that one. So that's the issue on that. Are you getting the gist of what I'm saying? If you want to take this, where you can actually go to the Diabetes UK helpline, back in England, they give out that number because a lot of the Asian people say, oh, it's on the English. I said, no. They can get a translator in Punjabi, Urdu, Gujarati, Mapuric, Arabic to come back to you. So I have to make people aware of that. If you want to take a picture of that, go to tried and tested websites about diabetes. Don't go to the fake, false, phony one and then send off for the tablet and say, oh, I'll have this tablet. How you know what this fake, false, phony person has put in that tablet? Could be cow dung, could be manure, could be grass. So only use the tried and tested websites to get the proper information, okay? Now that says any questions, but before I go on to any questions, I need to just bring up, and one of the computer experts might be able to help me here because I might struggle. I did put it down here. Down here should be a cultural mix. This is very important, cultural mix. So here we go. I'm trying to bring up the cultural mix. Yes, so if I click on that, it should come up. Yes, it is there. And I'm going to go, oh, not so bad after all. I'm going to go slideshow. And then I'm going to go from beginning. And has it come up? Yes. Cultural myths and misconceptions, which are abounding, which are out there, which we as African, Caribbean, and Asian people firmly believe in. In the Asian community, they use Karela. It's a bitter melon or bitter gourd, which they use in their dishes to flavor their meats. And it's very bitter. And some of them swear by it and put the medication that they should be taking aside and think that's going to cure them. And I have to go in those communities and say, no, take your medication. We in our community, from me growing up, my grandma used to use aloe vera, sometimes called tuna. Then you have Cinco Bible. Those are things where we grew up from we are in the 60s and 70s. I am not going to knock it and say, no, you can't use herbal remedies. Because herbal remedies never did us any harm when we were growing up as kids, you know? But you need to be mindful if you're on medication that you should take the medication because the doctor would have put you on medication for a reason, okay? Nowadays, I'm hearing a lot. We never hear that when I was growing up here. Something called moringa. It's big thing in England now, you know. Everybody want you to come back, bring moringa and the moringa tea, and somebody showed me what it looks like. I can't, and they call it merengue. Yes. And they have the seed. I don't know about that, but people ask me about that in the training. But herbal remedies to a point, but be mindful. Let me ask the question now. Is diabetes a touch of sugar? Hands up if you agree with that. Any hands not going up? Your hand going up? Oh, thank you. I've been doing this. And then sometimes we do the event and people shoot their hand up. I say, listen, my diabetes beat up my mouth for over 1.5 hours. And you did tell me that diabetes is a touch of sugar. I started the presentation by saying that was how my relatives back in the 60s used to refer to it. Granny have a touch of sugar. She has sugar. But diabetes is more than a touch of sugar. You with me? Right. Now also, we like white people, but let me tell you, white bread, white sugar, and white flour is a no-no. You're not supposed to be having white sugar. We're going to come on to the rice in a minute. But the white sugar, the white bread, and the white flour. Me love hard bread, as does my wife, my daughter, and son-in-law. 3 times a year, we have hard bread in the house. Christmas, Independence, and Easter. And we will get one nice HTB bun, live and direct from Jamaica. Not with that cheese, the horrible cheese we won't have. The one in the tin. That's not a proper cheese. Trust me. That's a cheese cousin. Taste, eh? No. No. But diabetes is more than a touch of sugar. Instead, go for brown sugar. Little bit of brown sugar. And some people go for honey as well. But not too much of it. Back in England, in some communities, this is real. You will see the man as skinny as a rake. I mean, see it over here as well. Skinny as a rake. Walking next to him is his princess, his duchess, or his queen. He is 6 times his size. And him say, yes, me conquered. This is my missus. And him feel proud and say, some people in some cultures actually big up their women by feeding them. Not even with the Botox or the injection. Literally feed them up to be that size. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a recipe for disaster. That is diabetes waiting to happen. Big is not beautiful, less is more. Okay? My daughter, when she came in, she said, Dad, what are we the woman named Juicy? Every time she said me, I have to laugh. I said, what you mean? She said, I'm big. And the men, them so small. I said, well, I'm here to educate them. I'll make them aware. Tell me now, diabetes is an old person's condition. Yes or no? Children as young as 12, 13, 14, 15 are developing diabetes because they might eat the KFC and the pizza and the McNuggets and the Wendy's and the burgers, and they are not being fed properly at home. Or even if they're being fed properly at home, then come out the street, come buy the chips and the crisps and the this and so on. So you need to be mindful of what the children are, and when you notice them putting on weight. No child is supposed to be this big, go to school and so on. So it's not an old person's condition. A big belly, these are myths that people believe in. A big belly is a sign of a happy marriage. The missus, the woman, treat her husband well. Listen to this. That man is about to have triplets. Okay? Let me see how much he was paying attention. What size from the belly button should all women aim to be? Not 34, not 31, 31 and, when I wasn't paying attention, make it register 31. But remember I said, that's ideal. Some of you will not get down there. So if you're 38, try and bring it down to 36 to make where do what we're wanting to do. The pancreas to produce the hormone insulin. What size should Asian men be? Sorry? 34 is wrong. 35. What size on the belly button should white men and black men be? 37. Okay, I'm getting there. In some communities in Britain, them things that they're going to show how rich and affluent and wealthy they are. So they have the donut and the bun and the cream cake and all of those things in their larder for when their visitors come. You notice the one dege strawberry up on there? I would rather see oranges, apples, mangoes, bananas, grapefruit, guava in there, in your larder, than all of that. That is 3 times a year. Trust me. Because remember, and this is the one thing I want you to take away from this. All carbohydrates you eat, rice, yam, plantain, bread, all carbohydrates you eat break down into your body into glucose or sugar. I will repeat it. All carbohydrates you eat break down into your body into glucose or sugar. So when none of that say, they're going to give up the cake and the bun and the ice cream, but now give up the whole heap of rice and yam and plantain and so on. You ain't helping yourself still. You're still going to have issues. Some people say, oh, it's God's will. The Bible says, you show me a verse in the Bible. Some people believe this. Show me a verse in the Bible or the Holy Quran, which Muslims use, which says, oh, it's God's will. No big deal. God said me I go get it. One woman did tell me one time, say, I don't have it, you know. But it may get it. Maybe ask God for a miracle. I said, that is one miracle me that tell God never to give. Because in the first place, prevention is better than thank you. Okay? I like to talk to my Jamaican audience because they know all the sayings. All right? This is one we hear a lot. Diabetes is a mild condition. Everybody have it. It's no big deal. What's the fuss? Is it a mild condition? No, it's a very, very serious condition. If you have diabetes, you want to start a family, you won't be able to find a husband and you can't have children. We hear that a lot out there. And I'm telling you loud and clear, that is nonsense, poppycock, absolute rubbish. My stepmother in Canada, she's died now, she had type 1. So she had to inject 3 times a day. It was harder for my father and her to conceive and have a child. But eventually, she did have a child, my half-sister, Julie. Ramadan, a lot in Britain, there are a lot of Muslims. If you're fasting through the month of Ramadan and you prick your finger to test your blood glucose, you have broken the fast. Absolute rubbish. So I have to go into the Asian communities, the Muslim and the Islam faith, and say, and we check this with the imam, the religious persons within the thing, and say that is not so. And then one more set of slides, and then I'm finished. And it is, hang on, what's happening here? I bring down here again. And it is the quiz. I'm going to do a quiz review very quickly, and then we'll finish. Slideshow from beginning. Yeah. Do people with diabetes need to follow a special diet? Hands up if you've got diabetes, you think the person must follow a special diet. Let me see the hands going on, those who agree with that statement. No, if you agree with it, just put your hand up for me, please, and keep them up. Okay? I'm going to pick on people. That man in the back in the white shirt, could you tell us, focus, could you tell the group why, if you have diabetes, you should follow a special diet? Because you have to cut down on the sugars and carbohydrates. Your hand went up. Tell the group, please, quickly, why cut down on the sweets? Well, the answer to that is there is no need to have a special diet. We all should have a healthy, well-balanced diet. So sometimes people back in England say, we're going on the keto diet, or we're going on the this diet, or we're going on the that diet. And 2-3 weeks down the line, they fall off the wagon. You don't need to have a special diet. So when I was growing up in the 60s, because so many family members had diabetes, they would put on a different pot. This is the 60s, you know, a different pot than us, the children, and the other people, the family pot. We didn't know back then. There was no need for that. We all must have a healthy, well-balanced diet. Do people with diabetes, hands up, need to stop eating rice? Put the hand up if you think, right, I must stop eating rice. No, coming to that yet. Stop eating rice. Oh, this is the first group I've been to it. On the love on the rice. Now, some people sometimes put their hand up. Think of the 2 billion people in China. What is the staple product of China? Are you telling me 2 billion people must give up rice? But this is the score. This is the score. Can you all put your hand like that for me, please? Everybody, and look into your hand. You're looking at it? The portion of rice that you eat on your dinner plate must fit into the palm of your hand. Now, some people was at this Abernathy Gallimore school, and they say, but that now got the IT, it now go full my belly. Me say, I'm afraid. That is what, so remember the days of me eating 6, 7 tablespoons? That is what you should, and then some people jokingly said to me, shh, Mr. Kelly, do you think, are you talking the uncooked rice? We said, no, but try that one. Because if it's uncooked and you put it in a pot, it'll go swell, okay? But that is ideal because remember, you're going to have vegetables on your plate and you're also going to have your meat if you're a meat eater. Now, let me see how bright you are. Diabetes UK, there's lots of rices out there, but there's 3 rices that you should eat more than any others. Me now give nothing for brown rice because everybody know that. Go on. Tell me another. Go on. Tell me another rice. Huh? I know what you're saying. Basmati rice, whether white or brown, is good for you. But it must be basmati. It must be basmati, not normal white rice. Basmati rice, whether white or brown. Now you can see that on the Diabetes UK website. So we've got 2 so far, brown and basmati. There's 1 more. I don't think anybody in here gonna get it. 1 more which Diabetes UK said you should eat more than any. Some people said to me, well, what about bulgur? Britain don't know about bulgur, but you can eat more bulgur because that's very good for you. But there's another rice that I would suggest you eat more of. Not just me, what Diabetes UK said. We said brown rice already. We said basmati, white or brown. There's another one. Oh, no, I get it. Wild rice, W-I-L-D. I didn't say white, I said wild rice. Those are the 3, okay? Wild, W-I-L-D. Is it out here? It depends on where you go. More upmarket supermarkets might have it. Right. Coming to an end, the people with diabetes need to avoid sweet fruit like mango and bananas. Let me tell you something. I'm in the house of the Lord, but we kill you for mango. Me love mango, you see. I St. Thomas, me grew up on mango. So when the mangoes come live and direct from Jamaica to the bull ring, I buy a big box of Julie mango. And I will sit down there and I will eat 8 at a time. Hang on. Remember, I do Pilates, yoga, acrobics, swimming, or I walk everywhere. My doctor says to me, you are constantly burning up the calories. So she's giving me permission to have as much mango because she said, you're not going to put on any weight. You're constant. But you, if you're sitting down there, sedentary lifestyle, and mango season come, and you wash your pot, turn it down mango time, and you eat 8, 9, 10, you will pile on the pounds. It's natural fructose or natural sugar. Are you with me? Okay? So the mangoes are good for you, but in moderation. Are you with me? Okay? Everything is good for you, but within moderation. You know, too much of one thing is good for. Okay. Oh, no, all of this thing. Amongst me, one Jamaican people. When I said this to some people in England, they look blank. As for white people, we couldn't talk to white people like how I talk to, because they would have a clue what I talk about. Okay? The banana. When I was growing up, bananas, the finger banana, was like this. No, the banana didn't long so. Me don't know where they get them so long. So you are to cut the banana in half, have half, and leave another half. And the darker the banana skin is, it's the sweeter the product is. But I will say to you, in terms of for your cereal, whether it be bran flake or oat or oat, have a lot of oat porridge. Please, may I beg you. Oat porridge is good for lowering your cholesterol and keeping you full. So bran flakes, Weetabix, oatmeal, also on oat porridge. And when I was growing up on a Saturday, Sunday, my granny insists that me have to have banana porridge. We couldn't stand it, but she stand over me and make sure me eat it. And haminy corn, we couldn't take that one. And rice porridge, all of those are very good for you, okay? And which one I want you used to go for? Cornmeal porridge. I used to like cornmeal porridge. All say, read that, and all say yes or no. Yes or no? All say? Did I hear any no's? Oh, hopefully not. You must eat more vegetables. Let me tell you something. When I was growing up, gully beans, susumba, tastes bad like one. My granny said that is good for you. You're a bright little boy if we make the brain even brighter. And that's an excuse you should give me. So the kale, the callaloo, the spinach, the okra, the lady's fingers, all of those, I will eat them. Not as a child. As a child, I was very cheeky. I'm going to say, Granny, that is rabbit food or guinea pig food. I cannot eat that. And she would have the slippers here and she would say, you are going to eat this. You're not leaving the table. So now on my dinner plate at home, there's a lot of vegetables. And some people say vegetables is expensive. And let me explain why it's expensive here. You should not be buying vegetables in the supermarket. You're paying for the cellophane and the wrapping and the music and the ambience and the air conditioning. Since I've been here, we went down to Coronation Market, okay? You know, if you go down there, you can go Papine Market, Crossroad Market, Linseed Market, buy your vegetables and fresh fruit on the corner from the man or woman that sell it more than, where you going to the supermarket to buy vegetables for? Eh? No, don't buy it live and direct. And I saw every conceivable fresh fruit and vegetables in the Coronation, 5 o'clock in the morning. My friend up at St. Andrews said, that is where she go every Thursday. She said she can't afford it. What am I selling at the supermarket? It's way too expensive. So when I hear people say vegetables is expensive, especially in England, I say on a Friday in the Bullring Market, because the market on a Saturday, because the market is going to close and not open on the Sunday, they're literally giving away the tomatoes and the cucumber, and because it won't stay till the Monday, and the lettuce and the cabbage. So when my wife said, well, why did you buy so much tomato? You know, it's 50p me pay for that. The man was literally giving it. And I never take anything from anybody for free if they're selling. I said, no, I have to give you something. But please, I'm asking you, don't buy your fresh fruits in supermarkets. You're paying 3 times the price that you would get it from the person selling it on the side of the road. Higglers are what they used to call informal commercial importers. They still call them that? ICI? Informal commercial importers? Yeah? So they used to call it when I was here. All the red vegetables you can, but this is one thing I'm going to leave with you. Not a vegetable, red meat. Red meat, me no love an oxtail, I mean no love an curry goat, I mean no love an beef. Red meat, no, that's not a red meat, that's a white. Red meat is the main cause of prostate cancer in men. Remember that. So it's probably 3-4 times a year, you must have oxtail. Oxtail is so damn expensive, even in Britain. Oxtail expensive. It's like you buy a whole apartment with the price of oxtail. And when we go ask the butcher, why is the oxtail so expensive? He said, remember, the cow only have 1 tail, you know. And we say, well, yes, I take that. But also, red meat is the main cause of cancer, colon cancer, in all of us. May I beg you, cut down on the red meat, please. Go, if you're a pescatarian, go for more fish, and more fish. Coming to the end, dal and beans. The Asian community use a lot of beans. All beans are fiber. They're good for your internal digestive system, except baked beans is packed with sugar and salt. So you need to go for the reduced baked beans if you're going to have baked beans. All the other beans out there under the sun are very good for you. Now, ghee, the Asian community use ghee for their cooking. Us in the Caribbean community use coconut oil. 1 minute you hear coconut oil good for you. Then minute you hear say no good for you. Then it good, then it no good. As far as I'm concerned, a coconut oil grew me up. And I've always had coconut oil. In Britain, we use extra virgin olive oil. It's more expensive, but it's better than the vegetable oil. Trust me, better than what I said, the vegetable oil and some of the other oils. And in our house, let me tell you something. We do very little frying. Boil, bake, steam, grill, and roast. I'll repeat them. Boil, bake, steam, grill, and roast. So that all the oil, when you grill and when it comes off and you throw it away. And I tell you something for nothing. In the earlier years when we used to come to Jamaica, we go Hellshire. And what they sell at Hellshire? Another fish me on about. Festival. What the dickens? Johnny cake or fried dumpling. Tastes nice as it is. What the dickens you put sugar in it for? I will not, if you give me 1 million festival, I won't eat it. That is a recipe for disaster. And most people out in Jamaica create a festival begin in England now, you know. At festival. I said, no. That's what you paid for it. I said, no, you can keep it and get to the next customer. Why are you putting sugar in something which is already based with flour and what have you, Johnny cake? In Dominica, they call it bakes. So, but why would you put sugar in that? First time I tasted it, I thought, oh my God, this is horrible. So, my wife is a teacher. She see them going to school, and all they're doing is a packet of crisp, that's the crisp there, and a can of pop. They pop, the soda. Please don't give them that. Let them have something more substantial because there's so much sugar inside of them that they fall asleep in the classroom. Okay? So, diabetes, avoid all sugar. You can't avoid all sugar. You must have some sugar. But you see that chocolate there? That is a killer. Go for the chocolate, which is marked 70 to 80% cocoa. That is, it's bitter, very, very bitter. And it will take you 2 weeks to finish a bar. More than that, you will eat 6 of those in one go, okay? And as for the donut, when we lived here in 1979, you used to see them up all over the corner. I sell the donut in the ring. And we come back in 2022, and they still sell the donut. Those donuts, you should only have twice a year. It is done in oil, it's done in the sugar, and it's no good for you. Huh? You could tell me, I'm glad to hear that. I'm coming to the end now. Some places have diabetic food, like diabetic jam. It's very expensive. You shouldn't eat it. And it says, the market ploy, no sugar added. You know what they put in it? Saccharins or sweeteners. And saccharins or sweeteners can be carcinogenic or can cause cancer. So if you're going to have some jam, have normal jam, okay? Now bother with this, because this is too expensive. Salt. Salt, as we know, causes high blood pressure or hypertension. And me taste a lot of the food out here, and may I tell you, it is way too salty. Please, may I beg you no. That is why when you're preparing your meals at home, you are aware of how much salt you're putting in it. And go for things like this: basil, dill, pimento, onion, garlic, scallion. What are those? Thyme, herbs, and spices. Not the one, not the Texas or the one. My grandmother used to do the flour and just double it. Now they have the ready-made one. You taste that ready-made one where you're going to coat the chicken with it. It already is so salty. The ketchup is salty. And my son-in-law says, he's a chef, he says, the salt in the restaurants is deliberately put on food. Why? No. No. I heard it over here. Huh? And therefore, if you're thirsty, what you're going to do? You're going to want to drink more and buy stuff. So your drinks bill is more than your food bill. Okay? Cut down on your salt intake. If you go to the restaurant and you know, we stopped somewhere the other day and they had jerk pork. They said the jerk pork, it's salty. You can't eat this. They need to do a batch for people who would rather have the one over by Grants, a Grants Penny name, coming from the country. A Grants Penny Jackpot. Faith Pen, yes. We use very little salt, the herbs and spice. And as a matter of fact, that salt has too much additives and preservatives and what have you. The sea is polluted to the nth degree. So don't go for the sea salt. Go for, which is in some places, the salt from the Himalayas. It is in some supermarkets and in some specialist shops. I'm told here it is very expensive. It is pink in color. Do you know it? The salt from the Himalayas, that's the one you should try and go for. Chlorella, that's when the Asian community have to tell them about chlorella, that they must, if they're on tablets, chlorella is like, let me tell you what chlorella is like. Some people are on blood thinning tablets and cannot have grapefruit or grapefruit juice. Are you aware of that? Well, chlorella is the same for some people on that. 3 meals a day. I'm coming to an end. This is the last slide but one. 3 meals a day. Breakfast. Breaking the fast. Remove the the, remove the ing. You put break and fast together. What you get? Some people intermittently fast. That's a choice of theirs to make. I tend to have something because I'm diabetes. I tend to have something. Oh, this is the last slide but one to end with. Fish. The more oily fish you have in your diet, the better. Sardine, herring, mackerel. I'm going to come on to salmon, but the more oily fish you have in your diet, the better. Oily fish wards off dementia, Alzheimer's, senility. It works on the brain, oily fish. That is a fact, okay? Even if doctors are in here, I will say that because that is fact. And oily fish also wards off rheumatoid arthritis in your joints, okay? However, salmon, the pink salmon that you see a lot of out there in the supermarkets and so on, especially if it's farmed, they put pink pellets in the water to give the salmon that lovely color. Go for red salmon, the salmon from the wild of Alaska. It's red. It's far better for you than pink salmon. Don't, if you can help it, keep on having pink salmon. This is a treat I'm going to leave with you. For the last 10, 11 years, every single morning when I wake up, I squeeze a lemon, or in this case, there are not many lemons out here, but where I'm staying, there are lime trees. And I squeeze a lemon in warm water, and I drink that. One's alkaline and one's acidic. Can't remember which, but the stomach is one and the lemon is another, or lime. Use that to wake up your stomach before you have anything, and that will keep you going for the day. So I do that. The people with diabetes need to avoid alcohol. If you're Muslim, of course, and if you're teetotal, you don't have alcohol. But those who do, you have alcohol-free days. So none on Sunday, a bit on Monday, none on Tuesday, a bit on, you spread it out over the week, and never drink alcohol on an empty stomach, because it will just go down the bloodstream so quickly. And then you go behind the wheel of a car, driving under the influence of alcohol, you're going to crash. Always have something in your stomach before you end up having some alcohol. No smoking, and that's the end. Thank you very much. Any questions? My email address is on there. If you want to take it down and email me anything. If you want to know the dates of the other events I'm doing right up until the 12th, to tell the people in St. Anne, I want bums and seats. I don't want to go St. Anne, St. Mary, Clarendon, St. Catherine, and just 2 deggy people turn up. That's not a good use of my time coming all the way from England. So if you know anybody or any church sisters or brothers in those parish, write down my email address and say, I heard you speak at Reverend Gordon's church, and Reverend it's Sophie, isn't it? Sophie Henry. And I think you need to go here this morning. I'm doing in St. Mary's, St. Anne, St. Catherine, Clarendon. I'm doing at Harborview, at St. Boniface Church, Harborview. I'm doing at Bull Bay, the Mission Church. Tell your folk to come out and listen to me. I'm not saying I know everything, but I've lived with it for nearly 19 years, so I should know what I'm talking about. Okay? Thanks very much for coming out and supporting and listening to me. It's much appreciated.
Mr. Kelly, on behalf of our pastor, Reverend Sophia Henry.
Is she
and
not here today?
she was here. She was here
Oh, but she
hour and a half
okay.
into.
Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. And Reverend Joseph Gordon, who did the heavy lifting in terms of, yes, thank you so much. And the Christian Education Department and the entire church, we just want to say a very, very big thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
It has been a most informative and insightful presentation,
Oh, thank you.
showing us so much of, frightening us really.
Yes, right, but in a good way. Yes, you're not scared. Have the KFC, but 3 times a year. Okay.
To come to our senses, by
Yes.
showing us
Yes.
just how deadly diabetes
This
can
can
be,
be- it is-
and even more importantly, showing us what are all the different ways or steps that we need to take to ensure that we remain healthy. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
You're welcome.
We recognize that you do this not only here, but you do this across the world.
I do.
Yes. So it is a very, very important work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And we recognize that. And we want to say thank you for what you do
You're
on
welcome,
behalf of
John.
all those for whom you do it. Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
Thanks. Thanks very much for having me. And this will go pride of place on my mantle. Every time I look at it, I'll say, oh, I came to First Church of God, 55A High Holborn Street, Kingston. And the reception here was good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you very much for staying, brethren. I recognize that it was a sacrifice for you, but I know that you have benefited significantly. And so thanks for taking the time to spend the Sunday afternoon with us. Have a very good afternoon as you go. Sister Carol?
They want more. You want more?